Have you ever wondered why a woman who barely speaks to you keeps sneaking glances when she thinks you're not looking? You sit there, maybe at a cafe or in a quiet corner of a bar, and you feel her eyes flick toward you and away in less than a second. It's so subtle you question if you imagined it. Then it happens again and again. This is not random. Women don't waste energy glancing at men they feel nothing toward. Every glance is a signal, sometimes a test, sometimes an unconscious leak of attraction, sometimes a manipulation. And if you don't understand the psychology behind it, you risk either overreacting like a desperate fool or missing the entire game unfolding right in front of you. Imagine this: you're at the gym, and between sets you notice a girl across the room adjusting her ponytail. You look up, and there it is. Her eyes dart to yours before snapping away. You feel that jolt of energy, that little voice in your head whispering, "She noticed me." But what do most men do next? They stare. They lock in, hoping to catch her again, almost begging for another glance. That is the mistake, because when you chase the glance, you hand over the power. Suddenly she knows she has your attention, and the mystery dies instantly. She becomes the selector, and you become the selected. That shift, though invisible, changes everything. Women sneak glances for three primary reasons. First, genuine attraction. Her eyes betray her before her mind can filter the reaction. That's when her pupils dilate, her posture shifts, and her breathing changes slightly. Second, social curiosity. Maybe she's checking if you noticed her outfit, her presence, or simply ranking you among the men in the room. Third, and this is where men get trapped, she uses glances as bait. Just enough eye contact to make you wonder, to stir your imagination, but never enough to commit. It's a psychological hook, a dangling thread to see if you'll bite, to see if she can pull attention without giving anything real in return. The real trap comes when you misinterpret every glance as a declaration of interest. That's when men spiral into overinvestment. They approach too quickly. They smile too eagerly. They push conversation without calibration. And suddenly, the girl who was glancing is now pulling back because you've shifted the dynamic. She was curious, maybe even intrigued, but now you've shown too much need. In modern dating, the man who shows need first loses leverage. Every time. Attraction dies not because she didn't feel something, but because you exposed your hunger. Here's the hard truth: glances don't mean commitment. They don't mean she wants you. They mean she noticed. That's it. What you do after determines everything. If you stare back with wide eyes, you fail the test. If you ignore completely, you also miss the chance to build tension. The strategic move lies in calibrated indifference. Acknowledge the glance with your presence, not a grin, not a rush, just a calm awareness. Look once, then return to your world. Show that her attention doesn't dictate your focus. That's what makes her glance again, because now the question shifts in her mind. Why isn't he chasing me when he clearly saw me? This shift is psychological warfare. Most men chase validation. Women expect it. They are used to men collapsing under eye contact, jumping at scraps of attention. But the man who doesn't fold, the man who stays grounded in his own reality, he creates scarcity. He triggers curiosity, even frustration. She glances again, longer this time. She adjusts her hair, crosses her legs, creates little movements to pull your eye back to her. And when you still don't break, she's the one who begins to feel invested. Without a word spoken, the balance of power has tilted. In practical terms, here's what you need to do. The next time you catch a glance, do not stare back. Do not mirror her nervous energy. Take one slow, measured look. as if you are scanning the room, and let your eyes meet hers for a second longer than comfortable. Then break away on your terms. Return to your conversation, your drink, your workout. Let her sit with the unanswered tension. This is how you test real interest. If she keeps glancing, if her body shifts toward you, if she finds reasons to hover nearby, you have confirmation. If the glances stop, you saved yourself from chasing a ghost. This isn't just about women glancing in bars or gyms. Think about your office, your social circle, even social media interactions. The same principle applies. A woman who looks but withdraws is always setting a frame. She wants to see if you'll collapse into pursuit or stay centered. Most men collapse. That's why she glances, not because she needs to be noticed, but because she enjoys the control. Your job is to deny her that easy power by not reacting like every other man. You make her work for your attention, and suddenly the entire game flips. So let me ask you this. Have you ever ruined an opportunity by reacting too fast to a woman's glance? Did you catch yourself staring until she lost interest? Or worse, have you ever confused her casual curiosity for real attraction, only to embarrass yourself when she pulled away? Which one of these mistakes have you lived through? Be honest, was it the desperate stare, the premature approach, or the total misread? And most importantly, what's the hardest part for you about holding back, about not chasing the glance immediately? Picture this, you're at a dinner with friends. The room is buzzing with chatter, glasses clinking, people leaning in close to hear each other. Across the table, there she is. She isn't part of your conversation, yet her eyes flick towards you when you're mid-sentence. She doesn't hold the stare, she drops it instantly, laughs at something beside her, acts as if you were never in her line of sight, but you caught it. And here's the dangerous part, your mind won't let it go. That single glance now spins 100 stories inside your head. You wonder if she's interested, if she's testing, if she wants you to notice, and without realizing it, you stop being fully present with your friends. You're in your head, analyzing, overthinking, already playing her game. This is how subtle attention becomes control. A woman doesn't need to touch you, doesn't need to speak to you, doesn't even need to give you a real smile. Just the power of stolen glances can hook you if you let your imagination fill in the blanks. That's the first trap men project. You project your desire onto her small signal, turning it into something bigger than it is. She glanced once and you think it means destiny. She glanced twice and you're already picturing a future. Meanwhile, she's not even sure you exist in her world beyond that second. And when she senses that you've inflated the meaning of her smallest move, she knows she has leverage. That leverage is power. This is why some women glance repeatedly without ever acting. They don't want connection, they want control. They want to stir your awareness, to feel the invisible rope around your attention. They enjoy knowing that while you're busy analyzing them, they're not thinking about you at all. That's the raw truth most men never accept. Not every glance is attraction. Sometimes it's dominance disguised as curiosity. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll become the puppet in someone else's silent play. The pattern is easy to spot once you know it. A woman who glances and then shows signs of nervousness, touching her hair, biting her lip, adjusting her necklace, that's attraction leaking through. A woman who glances, then whispers with her friends while smirking, that's a game. A woman who glances but never makes herself approachable, arms crossed, body turned away, phone in hand, that's bait. Each scenario requires a different response. And if you react the same way to all of them by rushing in or staring like a starving wolf, you fail across the board. The key is calibration, the ability to read, not react, to stand in tension without needing resolution. If she's genuinely interested, Your calm presence will invite her to open more signals. She'll move closer. She'll create chances to interact. If she's baiting you, your indifference will frustrate her, and she'll either escalate or retreat. Either way, you don't lose. You never invested. That is masculine discipline holding the line when your instincts scream to chase. Now, let's get tactical. When you catch a glance, ask yourself immediately, what's her body language telling me after the glance? Is she leaning in your direction or turning away? Does her energy open or close? If it opens, you can allow a second layer, maybe return one glance with slow, controlled eye contact, then turn away. Let it sit. Don't smile first. Don't fill the silence. If it closes, you do nothing. You keep your energy entirely on your world. This one mental step prevents you from spiraling into her frame. Another tactic: don't look for repetition. Let it happen. Men who scan the room constantly, hoping for another glance, destroy their own presence. You become obvious, fidgety, weak. The power lies in staying anchored. When she glances again, you almost catch it by accident because you're focused on your own conversation or environment. That makes her wonder if she's the one chasing, not you. And once a woman feels like she's the one chasing, the game changes entirely. But here's the deeper cost. If you fail this test, you hand over your emotional stability. You'll notice how your mood shifts depending on whether she looks again or not. You'll feel elated when she glances, deflated when she ignores. That's not masculine strength, that's addiction to scraps. And if you let yourself live off scraps, you'll build relationships where you're always begging for crumbs of attention. That's why you must master this skill, not just for attraction, but for your sanity. Remember, these women notice men who don't notice them back. They glance because they want to test if they can pull your gaze. When you stay unshaken, when you give them nothing more than controlled acknowledgement, you stand out from 99% of men. That's how you flip the dynamic. The glances don't control you. You control how far they go. That control is what makes you powerful. So tell me, have you ever been caught in this loop of projecting too much meaning onto a woman's glance? Did you feel your whole night shift because of the way she looked at you once or twice? Or worse, did you ever find yourself emotionally drained chasing a girl who only gave you signals but never substance? What's harder for you, reading her signals with clarity, or holding yourself back from acting on them? Think about the last time you locked eyes with a woman for just a second too long. That jolt you felt wasn't just attraction, it was uncertainty. And uncertainty is the fuel that makes men chase. She knows it. That's why women use glances the way fishermen use bait, small flashes, quick enough to keep you hungry, never enough to satisfy. They don't have to say a word. The glance is the spark. But the fire burns only if you feed it with your imagination. And most men, they hand over the matchbook without hesitation. Here's the brutal reality. Every glance is a frame test. It's not about her beauty or your desire. It's about control. Who controls the silence? Who controls the tension? Who controls who notices who? If you break first by staring, smiling, walking over too soon, you tell her everything she needs to know, that she can move you, that your center is fragile, that she is the chooser and you are waiting to be chosen. And once she knows that, you can never take it back. You've already exposed your hunger. That's why she pulls away after luring you in. The thrill was in the test, not in the connection. Another tactic: don't look for repetition. Let it happen. Men who scan the room constantly, hoping for another glance, destroy their own presence. You become obvious, fidgety, weak. The power lies in staying anchored. When she glances again, you almost catch it by accident because you're focused on your own conversation or environment. That makes her wonder if she's the one chasing, not you. And once a woman feels like she's the one chasing, even in small ways, the game changes entirely. But here's the deeper cost. If you fail this test, you hand over your emotional stability. You'll notice how your mood shifts depending on whether she looks again or not. You'll feel elated when she glances, deflated when she ignores. That's not masculine strength, that's addiction to scraps. And if you let yourself live off scraps, you'll build relationships where you're always begging for crumbs of attention. That's why you must master this skill, not just for attraction, but for your sanity. Remember, this women notice men who don't notice them back. They glance because they want to test if they can pull your gaze. When you stay unshaken, when you give them nothing more than controlled acknowledgement, you stand out from 99% of men. That's how you flip the dynamic. The glances don't control you, you control how far they go. That control is what makes you powerful. So tell me, have you ever been caught in this loop of projecting too much meaning onto a woman's glance? Did you feel your whole night shift because of the way she looked at you once or twice? Or worse? Did you ever find yourself emotionally drained chasing a girl who only gave you signals but never substance? What's harder for you, reading her signals with clarity or holding yourself back from acting on them? Think about the last time you locked eyes with a woman for just a second too long. That jolt you felt wasn't just attraction, it was uncertainty. And uncertainty is the fuel that makes men chase. She knows it. That's why women use glances the way fishermen use bait's small flashes, quick enough to keep you hungry, never enough to satisfy. They don't have to say a word. The glance is the spark, but the fire burns only if you feed it with your imagination. And most men, they hand over the matchbook without hesitation. Here's the brutal reality: every glance is a frame test. It's not about her beauty or your desire. It's about control. Who controls the silence? Who controls the tension? Who controls who notices who? If you break first by staring, smiling, walking over too soon, you tell her everything she needs to know, that she can move you, that your center is fragile, that she is the chooser and you are waiting to be chosen. And once she knows that, you can never take it back. You've already exposed your hunger. That's why she pulls away after luring you in. The thrill was in the test, not in the connection. I want you to see how deep this goes. Let's say you're at work, and there's a woman in the office who keeps glancing at you during meetings. You start to wonder if she's interested. You replay it in your head later. You convince yourself there's a spark. But when you try to engage, she stays cold, or worse, pretends like you imagined it. Now you feel foolish. You didn't just misread a signal, you fell into the trap of overvaluing the glance. Meanwhile, she gained a subtle power. You were thinking about her all day. She wasn't thinking about you at all. That imbalance is the cost of misinterpretation. But here's the shift you don't need to reject the glance you need to master it. A true masculine frame doesn't flinch at attention, and it doesn't chase it either. It treats glances like weather noticed, but never dictating the day. That's when you stop being manipulated and start being magnetic, because women feel it. They feel when a man isn't thrown off by their signals, and that's the man they respect, the man they want to invest in, not the one staring at them from across the room like a lost dog. Let's translate this into battlefield tactics. First, always slow down. Glances create urgency in men, this pressure of, I need to act now or lose her forever. That urgency is false. If she's genuinely interested, she'll glance again. She'll open the door in other ways. If she's not, you're chasing a shadow. Second, use environment to your advantage. If she keeps glancing, position yourself where crossing paths feels natural. Don't force an approach. Let her proximity confirm her interest. Third, Never mirror her frequency. If she glances 5 times, you glance once. If she glances once, you don't glance at all. Less is more. Your restraint amplifies the tension. And here's the hardest part detached from the outcome. This is where most men collapse. They see a beautiful woman and think, this is my chance. I can't lose it. That's desperation disguised as opportunity. The truth is, her glance doesn't make her yours. It doesn't even mean she wants you. It's just data. You're the one who gives it meaning. If you stop giving it meaning, you stop giving her power. That's the foundation of masculine detachment. You don't live or die by who looks your way. You live by your own gravity. When you hold that, women feel it. They lean in because they can't move you with crumbs. Now let's get personal. How many times have you built a whole story around a woman's look, only to be disappointed when nothing happened? How often have you confused curiosity with interest, or interest with commitment? And here's the real challenge. Can you admit that sometimes the pain wasn't in her rejection? It was in realizing you gave away your power before she even asked for it. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time a glance pulled you out of your frame? What did it cost you? Some women know exactly what they're doing when they glance. It's not an accident. It's a strategy. She'll look at you long enough to spark your pulse, then retreat into her world as if nothing happened. That retreat is what stings. It makes you chase. It makes you wonder, did she mean it? Did I imagine it? And in that moment of doubt, you're no longer in control. You're orbiting her, even if you never spoke a word. That's the hidden power of the glance. It shifts your center of gravity from within. I want you to imagine a different scene. You're at a party, music humming low in the background, people moving in and out of conversations. She glances, not once, but 3 times. You feel the heat build, that tension pressing against your chest. You start moving closer, drink in hand, rehearsing something casual to say. But by the time you get near, she's talking to another guy, smiling, laughing like you never existed. And here's where most men self-destruct. They feel played, embarrassed, jealous. They can't hide it. And the more they try to insert themselves, the more invisible they become. The woman doesn't even need to reject you. You've rejected yourself by chasing a signal without substance. This is where you need to hear the truth. Glances are never enough. A glance is not a green light. It's not permission. It's not investment. It's an opening. And an opening doesn't guarantee anything unless she follows it with effort. When she glances but then positions herself near you, lingers in your orbit, opens her body language, that's investment. When she glances and vanishes into other conversations, that's bait. You must learn to separate the two, because the cost of chasing bait is humiliation. But the reward of standing firm is leverage. The mistake men make is assuming they have to capitalize on every signal. That mindset comes from scarcity. The man who thinks he might never get another chance panics when he gets even a flicker of attention. He acts too fast. He pushes, and he kills the tension that could have worked in his favor. A man with abundance doesn't do that. He knows one glance doesn't matter, because there will always be another. That's why women lean into him more, because he doesn't cling to scraps. He lives like he has choices, and that is magnetic. Now let's weaponize this. When a woman sneaks glances at you, your job is not to chase, it's to measure. Think of it like reconnaissance in battle. You don't attack at the first movement you see, you gather intel. If she keeps glancing, wait. Give her time to create a bridge. Maybe she moves closer. Maybe she asks a question. Maybe she drops a comment within earshot. That's when you engage, because now she's shown investment. And when you do engage, you don't bring up the glances. You act as if you never noticed. You let her wonder if she was invisible the whole time. That mystery unsettles her. It makes her want to prove herself further. This is how you flip the script. She begins chasing your attention, trying to confirm you see her. There's another angle you need to understand: withdrawal. Some women use glances not to attract, but to withdraw. They'll give you enough to lean in, then go cold. Why? Because the coldness amplifies the effect of the glance. It's a push-pull dynamic. They test whether you'll crumble under inconsistency. Most men do. They lean harder. They ask questions. They beg for connection. And that's when the woman has all the power. She's teaching you to chase hot and cold behavior. If you fall for it, you've just trained yourself into her cycle of control. The way to break this is brutal indifference. If she glances, then withdraws. You don't flinch. You don't lean in harder. You don't change your behavior at all. You continue speaking to others, laughing, moving through the room like nothing happened. That indifference exposes the trick. Because now she doesn't get the reaction she expected. She doesn't get proof that she pulled your strings, and that absence of validation, that's what turns the game back on her. She may escalate, or she may disappear. Either way, you win because you refuse to play the role of her puppet. The ultimate shift here is realizing that attraction isn't about chasing glances. It's about maintaining frame. When you hold your frame, women reveal themselves. When you break it, you reveal yourself. That's why the glance is dangerous. It's not about her eyes. It's about your discipline. Every time you handle it with calm, controlled awareness, you sharpen your edge. Every time you crumble, you dull it. So let me ask you, have you ever been caught in that push-pull game where she gave you just enough to keep you hooked, then went cold? How did you react when she pulled away? Did you chase harder? Or did you freeze her out? And if you're honest, what cost you more, the rejection itself, or the realization that you gave her the power to dictate your mood? There's a reason these glances stick with you long after the moment has passed. It's not just about the woman, it's about the mirror she forces you to look into. When she sneaks that glance, when she withdraws, when she stirs your thoughts and then disappears, what's really happening is this. You are confronted with your own hunger, the need for validation, the craving for recognition, and that's why it cuts so deep. It's not her, it's you. Realizing how easily your attention can be captured, how fragile your frame becomes when beauty brushes against it. But here's where most men stay blind. They keep blaming the woman. She led me on. She played games. She gave me signals. No, the real issue isn't her, it's your lack of discipline. A glance is just a glance. It's neutral until you assign it power. If your emotions spiral from one flicker of eye contact, that means you're living without center. You're at the mercy of anything and anyone who looks your way. That is not masculine. That is weakness dressed up as romantic hope. Women sense this weakness instantly. They know which men are ruled by the need to be chosen. That's why they can toy with glances so effortlessly. For them, it's practice. For you, it feels like fate. That imbalance keeps you locked in the cage of overthinking. But once you cut the strings, once you stop giving weight to crumbs, something shifts. You become untouchable. She glances, and instead of pulling you, it bounces off you. That indifference is what makes her wonder. It's what forces her to invest more if she wants to get through. This is where you reclaim your power. The next time you catch her sneaking a glance, you let it roll over you like a breeze. You don't chase it. You don't ignore it aggressively. You stay rooted. You continue what you're doing with calm presence. If she wants more, she'll escalate. She'll glance again, linger longer, find a way into your orbit. That's her job. not yours. Your job is to stand firm, to never betray your center for the illusion of connection. Because when you hold that, she has to decide, is she willing to step into your world, or will she retreat? Either way, you don't lose. And here's the cold truth you need to hear: most women who glance are not meant to be in your life. They're background noise. They're distractions. They're tests of your discipline. Out of 10 who glance, maybe 1 has genuine interest. The rest are exercising power, feeding their ego, or simply bored. If you chase all 10, you waste your energy and bleed your value. If you stay disciplined, you filter naturally. The ones who mean nothing fade, and the one who truly wants you reveals herself. That's the difference between men who exhaust themselves and men who attract without effort. But there's an even deeper layer to this. Glances aren't just about women. They expose how you live as a man. Do you crumble at small signals in every area of life? Do you leap at attention, chase every opportunity, panic at scarcity? Or do you measure weight and act from strength? How you handle glances reflects how you handle business, money, respect, everything. The man who can't hold frame with a woman's eyes will struggle to hold frame when life tests him harder. The discipline you build here isn't just about dating. It's about building the kind of center that nothing can shake. So here's your final tactic: treat every glance as neutral data, not a win, not a loss. If it repeats with investment, you allow the door to open. If it doesn't, you let it go. Never pedestalize, never fantasize. A woman's eyes should not have the power to dictate your value. Only you decide that. Once you live like this, you walk into any room untouchable. Women glance, and instead of pulling you, they circle around you, trying to figure out what makes you so unmoved. That is the power of masculine detachment. That's the weapon that makes you unforgettable, not because you chased, but because you never needed to. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.